All right, thank you, everyone. This morning, I am being joined by our Holton Police Chief, Mr. Tim DeLuca. I have asked him to come speak to you today to address a topic that's going around on social media. Chief DeLuca and I agree on a lot of things, and one of those is the importance of being proactive instead of being reactive when there are issues in our school community. For him in our community in general. And so, some things that have been brought to our attention. This is national. Thankfully, we haven't had to deal with it too much here, but there have been some instances here at the school, maybe more minor, and then certainly even within the state, of some challenges being put out there by a group called Devious Licks. And so it's going around on TikTok, and essentially we're trying to keep students from getting in trouble. And so, Chief, I guess I'm going to start by saying thank you for joining us.
Tim, thanks for having me, and it's always a pleasure to address the students and parents or whoever else is listening in. With this COVID restrictions, I don't get in as much to see the students, so this is a nice way to get a message out, a really important message. So thanks for the invitation. It's good to be here.
No, I mean, we always appreciate everything you do. You're very active in what we do, and you and I speak all the time, even if you don't get to be in here quite as frequently with the demands of your job. Chief, I reached out and just said, look, it's a little bit troubling, and I'm afraid students may do something that's irresponsible and get themselves in trouble if they were to follow by these TikTok challenges that are being out there. And unfortunately, students across the nation, hopefully to a small degree, are, I guess, taking part. And the one for the month of October was about going in and record yourself destroying some school bathrooms. And I will say that unfortunately, maybe destroying is a strong word, but we did have some students who decided that they would make some messes. Splash. One of the students got put ketchup all over the bathroom, and I can talk about what happened to him here at school. And then another decided they'd take some paper towels and put them in the toilet and put soap all over the walls and on the floor and stuff like that. So, can you talk about, if I were to call you and say, look, we need to take a look at this from a law enforcement perspective, what could potentially happen if we were to push this to the fullest extent? And of course, I can talk about what happens from a school perspective.
Absolutely. First of all, I'm proud and have a great deal of respect for our student body. I think we have just a tremendous group of young men and women that go to school in our school districts. So I think this comes down to pride and responsibility, setting a good example, especially for the younger kids, and about taking pride in our school. So in that being said, it's about making good choices. So when you make a choice, where does that go? You decide to follow some of these TikTok instructions and I guess fall victim to the aftermath. And that is, make a good choice. If you make the bad choice, now all of a sudden you're developing not only something in school, the school sanctions, whether that's expulsion or suspension, in-school suspension, whatever it is, but you're also facing a criminal element. That's where we come in. So in that criminal element, again, zero tolerance for crimes that have taken place at school. And when we get that call from you, Tim, we're obligated, and we move forward quickly in doing an investigation, which that in itself opens up a lot of doors. We're in school, we're talking with student body, we're talking with parents. And so we actually launched an investigation to find out, A, what happened, the school's the victim, there may be other people that are victims, and then we start putting together an investigative report. Just based on what you talked about this morning, what the challenge was on TikTok, we're talking some pretty serious violations of the law. That's where we come in, the violations of the law. Because you're a student or you're underage doesn't mean you're exempt. It means you're held to a level of accountability. And that comes with an investigation, and the investigations typically are tell all. And then we'll file criminal charges.
And from a school perspective, again, I think you and I view things the same way. You take the smallest hammer to pound in the smallest, nail. We're not looking to have to make law enforcement referrals. I'm not looking to have to suspend students or, with the next one, recommend expulsion to the superintendent. But we need to view the fact that, number one, there's a lot of hardworking people in our custodial staff that are already being stretched thin with extra sanitizing and filling of hand sanitizers, and just so many other aspects of their job that they don't need to be going and cleaning up behind somebody else. But secondly, we're a building of 700 people, and we have a very small number of bathrooms. I think if you include our locker rooms, we might have 3 for each gender. And so, dirtying those, destroying the property, it's just, it creates problems for everyone. So we would look at here from the school perspective, probably not only suspension, but getting you to do some restorative work and working with our custodial staff, as one of those students has already had to do and the other one will do, and repaying for the damage. That one it was bothersome enough. Just thinking that, someone would do that here at school, but it's the next one that actually really troubles me, and why I reached out to you. This has not happened here. I really hope we can go through this entire month and really have it not cross our minds. I think our students are better than this. I know most of our students very well personally, but the challenge for the month of October is to slap a teacher or slap a staff member. That one, we're probably going to have less patience with. Do you want to talk about, from a law enforcement standpoint, if I called you up and said, Chief, we just had a situation where a kid they recorded themselves, or even they didn't record it, but they just reach across and slap someone because of a challenge. And what would be your response to something like that?
Absolutely. You talk about, we talked about making good choices, and there again, there's repercussions for everything. We're talking about victim crimes here too. So in the restorative approach, let's talk about the victim. The victim is the school. Talk about the challenge with the bathrooms. It does affect the custodian. It does affect other students. So there are other people. It's just not doing a little damage. Who's going to clean that up? We got to think this through completely. The same way with slapping a teacher or a staff member. There is a victim there. It's a victim crime, and again, the level of tolerance is a lot less on something like this. Again, we're going to go right in. We're going to investigate it, but you also got to understand that these type of crimes, elevated in their seriousness, are also elevated in sanctions through the court. And typically, slapping a teacher, they don't often take a restorative approach to that, rather punitive. So now there's sanctions. Is it a fine? As a community service, what type of sanction is our juvenile community corrections officer going to recommend to the court when you work with Kelly? And I can tell you, slapping a teacher, to me, it's an egregious violation. It's a respect thing towards the teacher, the staff, the school, and everything you stand for as a student. These things just don't go away. Everybody thinks, well, I'm a juvenile, and juvenile crimes go away when I'm 18. That's not true. I mean, you all have a future. The students all have a future, and they want to progress through their future, and they want to go on to college or to the military, or other type of jobs out there. And these, in the adult world, they look at the history of your juvenile history. Can you get into the military? Can you get into a college? Can you get scholarships? This isn't just some challenge that involves a victim, unfortunately, but it also impacts your future and the rest of your life. Things you really have to take seriously, because when we get a call for this, especially assault on a teacher or any type of violence in the school, we'll take that to the fullest. We'll work with the district attorney. We'll work with the juvenile community corrections officer and make sure that the strictest sanctions can be brought, because it is an egregious type of a crime. And the elements go up. It becomes more of a more serious crime as it pertains to, to the criminal statute here in the state of Maine.
And we are as the time of this recording, on the 5th day of October. And again, we've not run into this here at Holt Middle High School, but you and I really prefer to jump out in front of it. And again, I'll say, from a school standpoint, if something like that were to happen, that would be to where we would recommend to the superintendent, I would personally as the principal, that a student be put up for expulsion. I don't make that determination. That would be something that the school board would have to look at. But we would not look at that as being very kindly. And I'd sleep well that night that I made that recommendation, because it's not appropriate behavior. The other thing that I think, we need to consider is embarrassment towards parents, and impact that it would have on a parent, especially if you're a younger student. Even if it's just a suspension, not being able to come to school, it's going to have an impact on your grades. So look, this isn't intended to be something where, we're trying to forewarn everybody for any sake other than the fact that we need to get this information out there, that it is happening. And we hope that we're better than that. Chief, one of the ones that's coming up, I can't remember if it's next month or another one, is, jabbing someone in a breast. It's stupid. I don't know who's coming up with it. This would be one of those instances where I think that person should probably try to get a better life, but you and I just felt like this was a really good opportunity to connect with our students, to talk about the fact that we do feel like we've got a great school community, and we're going to be better than what may be happening in other places.
Okay, we've already talked about these. They're acts, both one, assaulting a teacher is an act of violence. Doing damage in the bathroom is a victim crime. They're both victim crimes, but they do affect people. Really, it comes down to making good choices. Making good choices means thinking it through. You can either go to the right or the left in the V in the road, but whatever you choose the right way, there's repercussions. Sometimes you go left, make a good choice. The repercussions are nothing happens. You move on with life. You go to the right and you don't always think it through. Now you're criminally responsible. Not a good personal choice, embarrassment, and how that's going to affect your future. Things typically we don't think about on a knee-jerk reaction to something on TikTok. Think it through, make good choices. And again, get along with everyone and try to make it the best atmosphere, and have an amount of pride in school, and in your school, and set a good example, especially for those younger kids. So it's more than just saying knee jerk, let's do this. Wow. The aftermath can be very, very difficult to deal with. Working with you, Tim, you and I and the school have a great relationship. We work very closely together. And I can tell you, if we get a call for assault, and by the way, touching a female in the breast is considered a elevated assault. And it could be considered a sexual assault, and then you've got assault on a teacher, and even the damage, and that could be a gross amount of damage, which puts it into a felony charge, depending on the amount of damage. So, a whole bunch of things that weren't completely thought through could really be debilitating to your future.
Well, we care about our students. We want them here. We don't want to see anybody get in trouble. So, hence, you and I trying to take a proactive approach. One of my favorite people, Chief Tim DeLuca, thank you so much for taking the time to help get this information out there. I'll be sure to share it with the students over the next day or two. And I think we're going to rise above all this.
Yeah, I do too. And you got some great students up there, and I miss the interaction, because it was always a good time and a lot of humor walking through the halls. This COVID has really put restrictions, but I see a lot of students out there in the general public. It's always good to see them. All I have to say is think out your future. Be that role model. When you're challenged with it and you have a lot of followers, wouldn't it be something if you just said, hey, that's not a good choice? Set that example for those other students that look up to you. Rather say, hey, maybe we need to take another look at this, because we don't do that here in Shiretown.
Absolutely.
Good luck.
Thank you so much, Chief. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, Tim.